This is one that like I always bump up against this. Like if you go into the ER or anything else like that, and they ask you like what your pain level is, and it's like 0 to 10, I struggle with that every time because I don't really know if I know what 10's like, and then what's
it's a different type of pain tolerance.
But when they do that, what they're looking for is changes. So they don't care if you say 2.
Yeah.
What they don't want you to go 2 and then you go like 4. They're like, ooh, something's worse.
Because then they need to change. Yeah, exactly, quickly. But the point is, what I'm getting at here with this is the fact that I've often felt the same like dissonance or perhaps like a different experience in terms of pain tolerance than other people. And I've wondered if it is because of endurance sports. Like it's a worthy question for sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to be forthright and tell you I've cribbed most of this from a collection of Matt Fitzgerald's books. I think he has a real good insight on this particular topic and the limits of human performance, both on the physiologic side and the psychological side. And he puts it as physical fitness represents our actual physical limits. Pretty straightforward. Whereas mental fitness is how close you can push yourself to those limits, both during racing and during your workouts. And this is something that can be trained just like you train your body, train your mind. We've talked about this a number of times. I mean, it really boils down to coping skills. And I remember back in the days of teaching my classes, I always talked about coping mechanisms. Said, so today I'm going to suggest this as a coping mechanisms. And they basically evolved into what is now termed as bailouts. But there's also some psychological ones. Like I remember Chris Horner back in the day would do this counting thing. I'd see him. I'd be watching a criterium. I'd have done the Masters 1-2-3 race. The P1-2 race would be going. Horner would be there. And I'd see him rolling around the course on a break with that kind of grin that he almost always had on his face. And he would be mouthing something the whole time. And I read about it later, and he was actually counting. He would count to a point and then count backwards or count by 5s. And either way, he was trying to distract his brain from the pain so that he could continue. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's an effective coping skill.
I've never heard of somebody else doing that. I thought it was just me. Wow.
Yeah, so it's and there are a lot of ways you can do it. Ton of ways.
And
I mean,
it's just
race
like
visualization. I'm cresting that final climb. I got this out for 30 more seconds. I mean, there's so many ways you can go about it.
It's just a distraction, really, for me. You know what I mean? Like that's
productive
kind of
distraction.
Yeah, a productive one.
One that keeps you on task, but distracts you a little bit from how much you're suffering.
And I don't know if just the metronomic nature of being counting one after another kind of helps.
Whatever
like
works for you. Yeah. And it may be rhythmic, and maybe it may not. Maybe that rhythm distracts you. Maybe it has to be asyncopated.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
So, and then he draws a distinction between having more to give versus giving more of what you have. So, which I find particularly interesting too, because this is what allows lesser athletes to beat those impossible opponents.
Oh yeah.
Is I may not be as strong as that guy, but I'm willing to give more than that guy today.
Yeah, it's interesting. And a lot of this, like you can find, like you're talking about Matt Fitzgerald. We've talked about this book. You can, if you search.
This is one of his books. This is pulled from or culled from a few of his books, but How Bad Do You Want It is where most of this comes from.
So if you search How Bad Do You Want It, Ask a Cycling Coach podcast, you'll find previous episodes. And we actually had Matt Fitzgerald on our podcast to talk a lot about this stuff. We had a live episode at Rafa Cycle Club in San Francisco. So you can check that one out too.
And this is scientifically termed as the psychobiological model of endurance performance. So, the psychological system mashed into, combined with the biological system. And in one study in particular, they used cold water immersion, and they actually tied it to childhood adversity.
Whoa.
So they would ask the people involved in the experiment basically what level of how difficult was your childhood, to put it really simply. And what they found was that the best results, the people who had the highest pain tolerance, came from the participants who were in between the extremes. They didn't have no stress and they didn't have ample stress. They were somewhere in between. So they had a mildly challenging childhood. Enough stress or enough adversity that they learned how to surmount it and processed it positively rather than were overrun by it or not exposed to it at all.
Do you guys want to do a cold water immersion competition between us?
I don't.
No.
Come on.
I don't. No, that
I want to do it.
Very fun. You do?
I totally do it.
It'd be way more enjoyable than a muscle biopsy. So I could. I think I could
do both
at the same time. Why not?
Yeah.
I'd rather just race you on bikes. I like that better. Yeah.
Your VO2 max is higher than mine.
Running then. I don't know.
I know, but it's the same.
Yeah.
I would say we could have a pain competition to really see who can handle the most pain.
I hate being cold.
Well, then I think you wouldn't do so well.
This is correct. You can predict my performance.
Bail out early.
Yeah, I hate being cold. Yeah. And
then also what they found is that people developed better pain tolerance if they incurred their setbacks within the sporting context. So if these other later forms of adversity came during sporting efforts or sporting events, they learned how to positively benefit from that.
I wonder if that's because even if it's something as silly as like, a $10 or like a chain lube preem or something else, we tie that into like striving and enduring pain into achievement. And I wonder if that's because we've kind of,
Perhaps,
solidified that model. Because it's kind of silly, like when you stop and think about it, most of us just race for nothing, really. Like we're not getting paid or anything else like that. But, we create, I don't know, this relationship of achievement being valuable enough to offset it.
It's status, too.
Yeah,
humans
for sure.
crave status.
We do.
And some people more than others. But that's when you win a preem, you get a higher status.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, regardless of how we improve our pain tolerance, though, it benefits us as endurance athletes. Absolutely does. I mean, don't really need to argue that. And in the book, we're talking about how bad do you want it. Frank Shorter, the guy who won the U.S. gold for the marathon in 1972, had a particularly tough upbringing, a lot of abuse at the hands of his father. And he basically attributed his high pain tolerance to the fact that not only did he know pain was coming, but he knew how long and how severe it was going to be. And this allowed him to mitigate the harmful psychological effects. He could get through it.
Oh yeah, I think that's a huge thing for me. I need to look at what I'm going to do or have an idea of what I'm going to do, and I don't revel or relish suffering at all. I'm not there. There's that side of things where people like really go into that, but I don't. I don't like it, but I have to be prepared for it. And if I'm not prepared for it, I find that I underperform. I don't reach my physical capabilities. I don't, I'm not ready to do it.
But there's just a tremendous benefit in knowing that not only that it's going to hurt, but you have some expectation and some familiarity, some experience with not only how long you're going to have to do it, how long the race is, or how long the climb is, or how long the last couple of laps are going to take, but also how severe that pain is going to be. And just mentally bracing yourself for that goes a long way toward enduring it.
Yeah.
And for everyone out there, too, you can be last place in the race, but experience more pain than anyone else in the race. Just because someone's faster than you doesn't mean that they go deeper or harder than you. You see people like who beat you on climbs, like, oh, it's just because they go deeper. No, it's probably, they're training, nutrition, parents.
It's a component, but only a component.
Someone could go way less hard than you. Like I think Brandon, our climber, he didn't have to drop me on a climb. He doesn't even have to go hard.
Sure.
Right? I could go deeper than I could pass out and not keep up with him on a climb when he's just going threshold.
Yep. Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can't have crap fitness and be the toughest guy around and win races. It doesn't work that tidily.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
you have to have it all.
You can work on this and be really tough, mentally tough. That's always going to be better for everything in your life. And don't think that you're not improving on this if you're getting beat.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair. Do you have what do you do to prepare yourself before a race like that, Nate? To mentally, I guess, prepare yourself for that?
Nothing.
So you just go in, you're fine with it?
I think so, yeah.
Huh. Chad?
I think I have an opposite thing where if I build it up too much in my head, then I'm like I care about the race too much, I can kind of underperform.
Interesting.
But
You, Chad?
Hard workouts.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I know a lot of people don't want to do their hardest workouts in training. They'd rather save that performance for race day. And I'm quite the opposite, where I'd rather have my hardest efforts, my hardest, my greatest amount of suffering in my workout, so that when race day comes around, I know I'm braced for anything that's going to be thrown at me.
Yeah, I gain the same strength from that tactic for sure. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. If you guys have any coping mechanisms like this, or things that you use to kind of mentally prepare yourself for a race, anything like that, let us know. This is like always a fascinating topic, because I feel like it's something that everybody can experiment with. Instead of us talking about like block periodization, where it might be really tough for one person to be able to implement that, all of us can dip our toe into the waters of mental preparation and experimentation with that sort of a thing. So it's pretty interesting.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.
If you think I have better hair than Jonathan, give it a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment.
My hair is better than his.